This is my Solo, a Star Wars story movie review. Everything you wanted in Solo, a Star Wars story is in this review. So let's kick it off with the most obvious pun, and that is the box office takings for this film were so low. Also, he's not in this film because he died in that other film, The Last Jedi, but in keeping with Disney's killing off of beloved characters and then attempting to revive them and reinvent them, he is in the new Disney Aladdin remake coming to cinemas in 2019. I give you Admiral Agrabah.
Are you gonna love this guy?
A long time ago, immediately after The Last Jedi, when the fandom was divided thanks to Rian Johnson's lazy lack of vision.
That's kind of the way I write, because I'm kind of a fundamentally lazy writer. Yeah, steal from the best. Right? No, that's the way you put it. Yeah.
The word on the street was that Disney were concerned that Solo was going to bomb badly. They knew this because of the following alarm bells. The casting of Alden Ehrenreich was concerning. The film faced production woes, including most notably the firing of directors Phil Lord and Chris Miller due to creative differences, extensive reshoots with replacement director Ron Howard, and to add further fuel to the already flaming fire that is this film, a multitude of disgruntled fans calling for a boycott. At the time of filming this review, the film has taken a worldwide box office total of $392,656,070. To further put things into perspective, it's ranked 279 of the all-time highest grossing movies, behind Alvin and the Chipmunks' Squeakle, which is ranked 234. For a film from the world's and film history's most successful franchise to perform so poorly means it's a failure. Disney and Lucasfilm have of course scrambled to create a PR narrative to distract from the real reason the film has suffered so badly, blaming it on such things as a poor marketing campaign and a new made-up medical ailment called Star Wars fatigue. So first of all, the marketing for Solo was just as comprehensive as The Last Jedi, save maybe the timing of the first trailer. Yet, the late release of the first trailer meant we were subsequently compensated with, well, I gave up counting at 30 TV spots and trailers. I also saw it plastered all over public transport, major billboards, and my gym TV screens were playing the trailer 3 times in every hour for 3 to 4 weeks leading up to the film. The marketing was appropriately sufficient, thank you very much, and I wasn't even going out of my way to look for it. It could be a complex problem. We could look to the timing of Infinity War and Deadpool 2 and blame these films for Solo's lackluster performance. Or we could say Memorial Weekend in America is a trickster of a time for film releases. We could say Star Wars films are better off only opening in December. Or it simply might be that they didn't have anything audiences wanted to buy and nothing to market with, as no one asked for a film about the franchise's most iconic character because he was killed off in The Force Awakens and would now be played as a younger version of himself by some guy who can't figure out whether or not he's smiling smugly or needs the help of his acting coach, which, by the way, he reportedly did. With the death of Han Solo in The Force Awakens, and then his own anthology film announced shortly after, I'm not sure if Disney were cutting their nose off to spite their face, biting the hand that feeds it, looking a gift horse in the mouth, or biting a gift horse's nose off to spite its face by cutting its hand off so it can't feed itself. But the simple fact is you really can't kill one of your most iconic characters off and say, you need to stop caring about this character.
Let the past die. Kill it if you have to.
And you need to start caring about our new characters, for which we have no idea what we are doing and have zero development for. And because we've just realised we can't actually rely on these new characters because we pretty much wasted them, we're going to have to cash in on nostalgia but instead will give you nostalgia's stunt double, Aaron Reich's smug, awkward smile. You just can't have it both ways, Disney. You can't kill Solo and then attempt CPR and then do a weekend at Bernie's and pretend everything's fine. Let's talk about that new medical ailment, Star Wars fatigue. I checked a few medical books. I didn't. While Star Wars fatigue, I can sure as porgs tell you, is not a thing, unless you're a hypochondriac, bad storytelling and a lack of long-term planning are very fatiguing. So, the movie. The story begins with Han, played by Alden Ehrenreich's smug smile, and Kira, played by Emilia Clarke, living the hard-knock slum-dwelling slave life on Corellia, trying to escape their miserable hard-knock slum-dwelling slave lives. They have come into the possession of something called coaxium, which is valuable because it glows and thus could mean their ticket to freedom. They are caught and taken to their hard-knock slum slave leader, who is a budget Roz from Monsters Inc. You haven't filed your paperwork! And they escape by Han smashing a window and letting light in because light is an allergen, and also, why didn't you break the windows all those years ago if you knew that it was going to be the solution to the problem? Next, a hovercraft chase with fancy maneuvers vaguely looks like a desperate escape, and we wind up at the airport as Han and Keira Knightley attempt to make a break for the gates, but their plan is foiled at the last moment. They get separated in the weirdest of ways. And as a way to escape being captured, Han decides to enlist as an Imperial pilot, and here we hear the Imperial March theme in the background. Like, you're using the music John Williams produced to score the original films as actual music in this world. Fair enough, the Cantina Band are playing Williams' music also, but it has context. But the Imperial March theme is an actual song the stormtroopers stomp around and march to. Join today, don't delay, don't delay. Then we finally get a piece of backstory that we have all been losing sleep over since the first time Han Solo appeared on screen in 1977. Han's surname origin is revealed, and it's quite possibly the most unnecessary answer to a question no one ever asked. Basically, the scene goes, "What's your name?" "I don't have one, I'm all alone." "Okay, you can be Han Solo, in you go." Wouldn't Han no friends be more accurate anyway? Why are we enlisting people with made-up surnames? What about security? What about spies? He could be a spy. And they just made up a name for him. Join today, don't delay, don't delay. Now accepting applicants with no surname. What if his circumstances at the time were different? "What's your name, son?" "I don't have a first name." "Okay, well, do you got a last name and maybe we could work back from there?" "Oh, that's easy. My last name is Solo." "Okay, Solo. Let me see. Where were you born?" "I was born in Kentucky." "Kentucky Solo it is. Now hush up and let's get to some acting." So after this mess of exposition, we flash forward to 3 years later, and Kentucky is fighting in a war, and his main goal is getting back to Kara, Khaleesi. He meets Chewie for the first time. There's some dialogue. He befriends / gets done over by a group of ragtag mercenaries / gangsters, and ends up with them on a mission to steal some big-time coaxium, because nothing says MacGuffin like a rock. The next sequence is a train heist, which is fun, sure, but half of the characters we just got introduced to then die, and because we knew hardly anything about them, there's no emotional punch, and it just makes you go, oh, this is probably the part where the original directors were fired. We then get introduced to a crime lord played by Paul Bettany, who has angry, rashy scars on his face, and they get angrier and rashier the more angry he gets. And this helps us know if he's angry, because acting and also Red Raging Rash. Kentucky Solo, all too weirdly and so ridiculously, randomly and conveniently, then bumps into Kira again, and this immediately negates Kentucky's needing to go back to Corellia, so that tension is gone. Also, because Kira, whatever, is right there, it's anticlimactic, and what does Kentucky have to fight for now? Yes, he's embroiled in this crime syndicate thing, but the journey of him getting back to his home planet to rescue Kira, all tension is gone. I get that the rescuing the princess storyline is being done to death, but why even set it up this way to begin with? Yes, it's a nice contrast when we see Kira 3 years later and she's doing just fine without Kentucky, but it's 3 years later. Surely Kentucky would have moved on too, or given up, or not, or what? Like, what the heck, Kentucky? Why is it taking you so long? Are these space years, Earth years, dog years? Because no one's aged. So off we go to get a ship and paint the plot by numbers, and Kentucky doesn't really have any purpose, so he just literally goes along for the ride with this motley crew. We meet Lando, played by Donald Glover, and he does somewhat do justice to Lando's original character and brings his own flavour to the role in a way that is respectful of the source and new for the time. And because of the times, he likes to have sex with robots, toaster robots, robot toasters. We're introduced to Lando via Kira, who says, he's this, he's that, he's a charmer, blah blah blah. And this is a problem for the film because so often we are told what to expect before it happens. Lando is a real charmer, he's this, he's that. Get ready to be charmed because he's charming, we said so! So Lando and Kentucky play some space poker together.
The seat taken?
Nobody's in the seat that I ain't taking from.
So this is, Sabak?
Sabak.
Sabak. Got it.
You played before?
Couple times, yeah.
Captain Lando Calrissian.
And there's a real lull moment when Lando says Kentucky instead of Kentucky, and Kentucky just says it's Kentucky.
But that's okay.
So that was pointless and uncharacteristic of Kentucky, the one we know and love from all the other films. And then we get introduced to L3, the female robot, and the only way you can tell she's female is the robot childbearing hips she has. Otherwise, it's not obvious at all.
Excuse me. Get your presumptuous ass out of my seat. Ugh. Ugh, my sacral occipital circuit is sticking. You're gonna have to do that thing again later.
Yeah.
The way Star Wars writers jimmy robot gender issues into the story has about as much subtlety as a sledgehammer. It's so literal, the message just becomes clumsy and comical. So of course, Lando joins them on their adventure and we all climb aboard the Millennium Falcon, and our next stop is some gas planet, which is through the Kessel Run or something, and on our way, L3 awkwardly talks to Kira, about Lando having a big old crush on her, which adds to no one's character or experience of that character, and it's just awkward and pointless. And finally, after some robot liberation, we get the coaxium, L3 dies, Lando loves capes, the Kessel Run is a giant space octopus, and at no point is there ever any real threat or danger, because not only are the stakes not that high or even important, we know the main characters survive because... Then we go back to wherever we were to deliver the coaxium back to Red Scarface, Rashy Face. But just before that happens, a bunch of bandits who have been thwarting Woody Harrelson's heist attempts. Oh yeah, Woody Harrelson is in this film. So these bandits arrive on the scene and reveal themselves, and what do you know, their ringleader is little orphan Annie.
It's the hard knock life for us.
So what really bugs me about this Infus Nest reveal is that it's a girl. I have no problem with the character being a girl. I have a problem with Disney being all like, ha! Gotcha! Bet you didn't see that coming. Bet you didn't think it was a girl. Since when was It's a Girl a big twist? Stop playing this it's a girl and you should be shocked even though you shouldn't be. Because we aren't. But the way Disney plays us like This only demonstrates their juvenile attitude towards these issues. It's a girl. Is it a good character? Not really. What's up with the lighting and colour grading of this film? 3/4 of this I thought I was watching a black and white movie. What the heck? It's so dark and poorly lit, it looks like it was lit with the last match on Earth that had gone out. It was supposed to add to the edgy feel of it and distract from the cheap looking sets and cosplay costumes, I suppose. All it did was make it look squinty. The way Kentucky meets Chewie was fun and clever, but also I thought Chewie was with Kentucky because he saved his life. Did Kentucky really save his life? This movie didn't give you a reason to want to sit down and watch any of the other films like Rogue One did. After Rogue One, you immediately wanted to watch A New Hope, and you did so. Rogue One gave A New Hope and the other films new meaning and fresh context and a fresh perspective, whilst keeping the old perspective intact. Kentucky neither adds to the story, the existing stories, or gives us anything new to consider. As for Kentucky's character, in A New Hope, he is selfish. His only reason to rescue Leia is she's rich, and his arc is that by the end of the film, he has friends and he values that more. In this film, he is living in the streets like a street urchin, and by the end of the movie, he is still a street urchin with no purpose. Yet he also helps rebels and has altruism. So he is exactly who he is at the end of A New Hope. It's like a reverse character arc. My score for this film? Solo gets 1.5 bombs.
Thanks for helping me get out of there. So what's your name anyway? Chewbacca? Alright, well, you're gonna need a nickname, because I ain't saying that every time.
So basically, I'm going to tell you where Lando's name came from, because that's basically what this film is about, just explaining where people's names came from. So what happened was, Lando used to be a space pirate, a rapscallion space pirate, sailing the 7 space seas, whose birth name was actually Hong Chong Christopher. And his job was being the one in the Eagle's Nest, looking for terra firma, pterodactyls, the Tower of Terror. And his only job was to shout, "Land ho!" when he spotted it. And to be fair, it was the only English he knew at the time, which was pretty fortunate, because that was his job. And because English was the worst language he could speak of the 14 actual languages that he knew, he was bullied by the other English-speaking shipmates. They'd laugh at him and whisper, "Land ho!" And one day he confronted them about it, and not in English, but one of the other 14 languages he could speak, said, "Why are you laughing at me?" He also has a Kentucky accent, and they just laughed because they didn't actually understand what he was speaking, the language that he was speaking. And he was all like, "My name is Hong Chong Christopher, damn it." And the others continued laughing and saying, "Land ho!" So eventually he gave up, and Land ho just kind of stuck, and everyone forever just called him Land ho. And over time people got lazy with the pronunciation, and whilst it's correctly pronounced Land ho, it's commonly just spoken as Lando. Yep.